You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nichole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is Friday, November 19th. Wait, no, it's the 18th. And today is National, it's Mickey Mouse's birthday. It is National Unfriend Day. Oh, that was yesterday. Damn it. And it's Friday, guys. So we're real happy that everybody made it here. And it looks like Jason Beck is MIA once again. Hopefully Vegas didn't eat him alive. We're so thankful for each and every one of you tuning in and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday and high noon on the East Coast. We have correspondents from around the country that allow for an open forum to participate. Do us a solid and give us subscribe and share us on your favorite social media platform, and maybe tell a friend about something you learned today. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and Twitch, and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you're in Clubhouse, you can raise your hand if you have a brief comment or question on the story presented. And please keep that banter going in our chat box. It makes it fun for the rest of us. We have a great show for all of you guys today, and we're getting some important topics to be discussed. But first, let's pay a bill so we can get this party started.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Thank you again, everybody. Up first this morning, we've got Rico Lamitte. He's the dope dad on the street, making sure that everybody understands that being dad and smoking the reefer can go hand in hand. You can be good at both of them. He's also the founder of Cannavision and one of the people working hard on the back end, making sure that Happy Cabbage gets you your data so you can make that money. Rico, what do you have for us today?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, like it's a weird setup, and this internet is not that good, so it keeps on glitching on my side. So I apologize in advance to everybody. I'm just here to be fat. Thank you for that great intro, Nichole. I'm up and at 'em. It's Friday morning, last day of MJ Biz, and this story is coming directly out of Leaf. New York's gray market cannabis crackdown begins in Brooklyn by Calvin Stovall. Could a Tuesday afternoon raid in Bay Bridge, Brooklyn, mean doom for Trapper's Paradise, aka New York City, United States of America? Some seem to believe so, as the first licenses are slated out to go out next week. By the looks of joint action between the New York City Sheriff's Office, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, the Office of Cannabis Management, and the NYPD resulted in an arrest of two alleged operators of an alleged illegal cannabis and tobacco shop, allegedly called Big Chief. They did it in broad daylight in front of the store on 4th and 74th Street in Bay Bridge before putting out this message. We're doing a joint operation for various violations to the law. Obviously, this one has one location where we receive many complaints from the neighborhood about illegal sale of marijuana and a host of other illegal products, vapor products that are also illegal. that are also illegal, e-cigarettes that are against the law as well. So we went in and did the inspection. Then we seized all the property, and we made 2 arrests of this location today. Just last month, Fox 5 New York visited Big Chief, and the owners told the station that they weren't hiding anything. It was then that Tank Dennery told the reporters he was a co-owner, and Big Chief submitted a dispensary license app, but was waiting to hear back about the status. It's not clear if the owners from last month are the same ones that were arrested Wednesday, but it sure does look that way. What is clear is that the cops are out here to make an example out of folks just like this, trying to make a way for themselves. The video of the raid was posted on LLN New York City, showing the cops seizing boxes and plastic bags from the shop. And when they were opened, allegedly, there was Jungle Boys and Alien Labs products all in there from California. Both popular out here, not available legally in New York. Brooklyn City Councilman Justin Brennan called the raid justified. He and New York State Senator Andrew Gerardus last month wrote a letter to NYPD Commissioner Keechan Sewell requesting a crackdown, and if it seems Christmas came early, and it does seem that Christmas came early for the local politicians. They'll be labeled legacy haters by many, protectors of the regulated future by others. But no matter which side you crack down on this story, one thing is certain. Broken windows policy is back in full effect, and I called this shit the first time Eric Adams put out Trapper Bait Traps months ago, luring all the D-boys out into the broad daylight. So stay safe out there, brothers. Stay strong. Like to hear the rest of your opinions on this one. Is it the end of the trap market for for New York? And did these guys self-snitch or what? Going on the news and identifying themselves last month.
Do you remember, Rico, did you see Kyle Kazan's video of him in New York?
Yes.
He like walks into the dispensary. For those of you who don't know, Kyle Kazan is a former police officer, and he is one of the owners of Glass House Farms, which is the largest company in the state of California. And Kyle Kazan goes into New York, walks into some dispensary, I can't remember the name of it, and is like, I am so astonished. How did all of our weed get here? And he starts pulling the packages, and he's reading the codes on the back, and he's like, this is legit. And he's like, Glass House Farms, this is really our weed. Plus gummies, that's really their shit. And he's in the store on his social media recording it. It got pulled off of his social media, but once you put it on the internet, it stays forever. So now it's on Blacklist's page. But I mean, that was like a very like apropos moment in like the obviousness, but also like, bro, play dumb, that dumb. I don't know.
Right.
I think this is a good thing. I don't care about what legacy labels me or whatever. This is bullshit. If we want regulated markets to flourish and to take hold, you got to get rid of this stuff. That's the only way that this is going to work. You can't continue the illicit market. It's just not helpful. And these guys are idiots. They deserve to be caught, number one.
Really idiots.
Well, but
they're on the news.
When they're saying that they're not hiding, they're not lying, because there's so many people that are just doing it so out in the open. And like the way that, you know, that video, it was very blatant, but it was also like, look at these people. And like, I think that the reality is that people are going to put that on the internet. People are going to say like, oh shit, I got the Jungle Boys from this dispensary. And like, right. it like you're like openly incriminating yourself for trafficking.
Well, and I think others need to take this as notice. I think New York is going to crack down. I don't think they're going to be as lenient as other markets have been. There's no way that Washington Square and all the trucks and everything can continue. They are not going. MSOs, everybody with money isn't going to stand for that. And they're going to lean on New York regulators to shut this shit down.
With the way the New York system is actually, when the way the New York system is actually set up with this new licensing, that federal hearing is actually probably going to stop them from being able to issue any licenses, because the way that you had your like first come, first serve situation, I think it'll be very interesting to see how that actually transpires, because some of the largest markets are the ones that have been taken away in that that ruling. So right. I'm a big believer in access. And so I struggle because I'm like, all of our markets started where we had a store open and people were still selling weed from their house to the store in regulation.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like that has been going on across the nation every time a new market opens. Colorado, California, Washington, Oregon, they all did the same thing. So for a decent amount of time, the weed that you were getting in a regulated store probably grew in somebody's garage. And that's the part that New York's having this like, awkward transition into like, into adulthood. It's like that, those teenage years of trying.
They're going through puberty.
Yeah, it's weed puberty for sure. But I mean, I agree with you, Gretchen. They do have to crack down, but at a certain point when you have the conversation of access and that there isn't access available, but they are trying to say.
That's ridiculous. That's like, oh, let me just keep, my neighborhood crack dealer around because he's closer. I mean, that's just silly. You need to be talking about safe access, not just
very different than crack.
Access, anything you can get.
I think the trouble is that people straddle the line, meaning that all the illegal sales are from licensed cultivators and distributors and manufacturers. So they just step on either side of the line, just to sell their products, and that makes it hard to catch them because when you look at their information, they're all legal.
And I would love to also address Malik in the chat. Yes, taxes have to come down. That is the number one way to get people out of the illicit market and into stores. The taxes are way too high. You're not going to hear any argument from me there. Taxes definitely need to be dealt with, and regulators need to understand there's tax upon tax upon tax upon tax, and they just don't get how it's hurting people at home.
Shout out and rest in peace to Jimmy McMillan, because the rent is too damn high. Yeah, Kimo knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, he passed away. I think he passed away of COVID. He was the world famous city councilman, the guy who ran for city council in New York like 3 election cycles in a row. And he formed the Rent is Too Damn High party. So big shout out to him, and I hope his legacy moves on as well, like the legacy of these trappers too. And let's keep moving. And you got. I'm like flying blind here because my screen keeps on going in and out. The Cosmo, whatever, like internet is trash. So I apologize. I'm just gonna wing it. Up next, we have my co-host, not Jason Beck, because who knows where Jason Beck is? He's probably in Wayne Newton's guest room, sprawled out Winnie the Pooh on the couch. But enough about Jason. Let's talk about self-proclaimed data bitch. Hailing from Long Beach, California, she actually spent 30 days in a Colorado cell and did the time for this cannabis crime so you can learn from her. She busted back on the scene, and now she's a compliance expert, efficiency guru, and then also she's the queen of all things when it comes to dirtbag studies. Right? You're TA now, right?
Yeah, professional dirtbag studies.
Coming to the stage next, y'all know who it is, Nichole West, buddy.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Rico. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm glad that we have made it, and everyone, please send your well wishes to Jason Beck in hopes that he is still around with us. So up in my story today is actually coming out of the Businesses Insider from South Africa, where you can get a year's supply of free cannabis with South Africa's first clinical trial for chronic pain. South Africa's first clinical trial examining the plant's effectiveness as an alternative to opioids for chronic pain management looks to enroll 300 participants with results expected in the late of 2023. The Cannabis Research Institute of South Africa, or the CRI, is sponsoring a year-long study in hopes that it will provide credible, reliable, and verifiable data on medical cannabis. This clinical trial comes amid South Africa's perception shifting drastically regarding the plant, which has grown since the 2018 decriminalization court ruling for private and personal use of cannabis. Since then, the private sector has piled on South Africa's green rush, while government-owned cannabis master plan looks to industrialize the plant and unlock more than 25,000 direct jobs. But legislative progress from the form of cannabis for private purpose bill currently before Parliament has been very slow, leaving more unanswered questions around the recreational or medical use of this plant. The use of cannabis as a medicine has been legislated in most American states, Canada and the United Kingdom, Australia, and much of Europe, as well as South Africa. While the plant's use is legal in South Africa, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, or SHAPRA, does not yet have any official cannabis-containing medicines approved for any pain relief. Opioids like morphine, fentanyl, and tramadol remain the most common treatment for pain in South Africa. They're also likely addictive, and due to their pharmacological effects, can cause breathing difficulty when overdosed, often leading to death. Of the estimated 500,000 global deaths that are attributed to drug use, more than 70% are related to opioids, according to the World Health Organization. South Africa has seen a sharp increase in the treatment admission trends for opioids over the past decade, according to a study authored by members of the South African Medical Research Council. Chronic pain is defined as pain that lingers for longer than 6 months and can be categorized as visceral, somatic, and neurogenic. Given the broad spectrum, a wide range of treatments exist, from over-the-counter drugs to opioids such as morphine or oxycodone, which instruct the body's natural opioid receptors to prevent the nerves responsible for pain from signaling, explained Dr. Shashka Galau, the principal investigator in this research study. In addition, opioids are associated with a plethora of other side effects, including sedation, respiratory depression, and often death. With global increase in opioid addiction, which brings a far-reaching repercussions from ill health to broader societal issues such as crime, this research will be focused on establishing a safer alternative to treating pain. There has been an increase in trials focused on replacing opioids with cannabis for the treatment of chronic pain in the United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention of CDC. A few studies have found that marijuana can be helpful in treating neuropathic pain and specific types of chronic pain caused by damaged nerves. The CDC adds more research is needed to know whether or not marijuana works better than other opioids at managing pain. The first South African trial, in a collaboration with Relief for Cannabis e-Clinics, a member of the Nichole West group, gives participants access to their medicinal cannabis through this study. This year-long study, which still is accepting participants, will ensure that they stay on the medication until weaning off of the opioids becomes completely possible. Medicines will be provided free of charge to patients who will need to complete questionnaires each month before getting their next prescription. 3 consultations will be provided to patients during the year, and any urgent consultations will be made available at the time if necessary. All patients participating in this study need to prove that they suffer from chronic pain. These patients typically have illnesses or disease such as rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, and even cancer-related conditions. South Africa's Department of Health and the SAMRC have approved this clinical trial according to the Relief Pharmaceuticals, with Sharpa having been notified about the sponsor and is studying this protocol. Professor Charles Perry, the director of the SAMRC's Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug Research Unit, told the Business Insider of South Africa that the Department of Health was solely responsible for approving all clinical trials. Perry provided the trial approval letter addressed to the South African National Clinic Trial Registry. The SANCTR is supported administratively by the SAMRC on behalf of the Department of Health. I'm curious to see where the weed's actually going to be coming from. I was in South Africa earlier this year. Now, there is some really amazing cultivars that I was able to see. I smoked real Durban poison, and holy moly, I will say that was probably one of the most experiential boof weeds I've ever smoked in my life, because it was the real thing and it looked awful, but it had all the flavor and all the terps that I was expecting of traditional Durban poison. And I'm excited to see what this looks like. But like I said, did not see a whole lot of very strong or potent products. And I'm hoping that there is access to those products available to these specific people a part of this trial, because I do think that we need to make sure that we have a little bit higher grade than what I had access to outside of, I did go to a cannabis cup. There was about 60 entries, and about, I'd say 7 of them would be, in my mind, considered something that you could get a quality and enough response to be able to wean yourself off of opioids. And I also do hope that they involve edibles, because I do know that a lot of people who are trying to get off of opioids find great relief from the use of edibles. And I'm not sure if that's a part of the study or not, but I'm really hopeful that it is. And I'm Nichole West, and I'm really interested to hear what everyone else has to say. And good job, South Africa, because this is the kind of stuff that we need to be doing around the globe. And I'm Nichole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
So you get a year's supply of boof.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I mean, that's really all they have.
Right.
You are so right, Nichole. It's all about what type they're getting and what they're doing with it. It's pretty clear cannabis helps with pain. I mean, we've seen that in study after study. So we're sure, but if we don't want to repeat what Sue Sicily did with PTSD, where she used a type that did not help with PTSD, we've got to make clear, what type they're using, whether it's potent enough. I personally think a 1-to-1 may be better than a high THC type of flower, but we'll see what comes out of the study.
One thing I'm hopeful is there's a decent amount of CBN available as well, because I do know when they're going through withdrawals and trying to get off of opioids, CBN does help a lot, not just for relaxing, but being able to find calm and sleep. So one positive thing about boof weed is a lot of boof weed has CBN in it because it's old. So fingers crossed.
I mean, I got a confession. I really started to like 1-to-1 pre-rolls at one point. And I was like, dude, like this is actually like pretty good, and I'm not like all super high. I'm functional, and I hated myself for liking it, but I really, really did like it. That's my confession for the day.
Dr. Talleyrand, I got a question for you. Do you think that the scope of this study is broad enough for this study to actually be taken seriously later? Just 300 patients. Is that enough?
Yeah, when we do observational studies, we get statistical significance. I mean, we got it at 67 patients. So anything around over 100, I think, should get statistical significance with this. It's really about the type and the route of administration. Those are the two big questions I have.
I just think it's really cool that the government is helping with this. And it's like, man, if state of California could do this, and the state of Oregon could do this, and the state of Washington could do this, and these states that have access to quality tested, like that medicine, I think this is just
even if it isn't the highest the quality, and everything, at least they got weed like for a full year, they'll never go dry.
I'm excited about that.
Great.
And the way South Africa's system was set up is so messed up for like actually getting access to your cannabis, that this is going to be a huge step for them. I mean, real life people were getting, if you do research on this, they're called the Daga couple, and Myrtle Clark is one of the Daga couple, and Daga is what they call cannabis in South Africa, and
Daga.
They were cultivating and helping medicinal patients throughout South Africa. And the police, this is 7 years ago, the police came into their house and fucking killed Myrtle's husband in his bed. And so like, and this was over, all they were doing was growing weed on a jazz farm. And so this is, something that I think is really important for South Africa to be able to have legitimacy behind what's happening, and hopefully make it so that they're not treating people as awful as they have been. And right now, you can only consume cannabis in your own home privately, and there's nowhere to technically get it. So this, I think, is a step in the right direction. And I just hope some of our states that have access to good weed do the same kind of thing. Because imagine, like Dr. Talleyrand was saying, if they get bad weed and we get bad results, and it's like, at least we could have multiple locations getting different types of results. And I think that when we start to talk about real access to these trials, being able to use, and I'm glad Jason Beck's not here, outdoor weed, because when we talk about the conversation of the things that your body needs, the way that plants respond naturally in your area are the things a lot of times that your body needs for you being in that area. Like the foods that are being
like local bee honey.
Yes, local bee honey, the foods that are being harvested in your area at that time for like your gut biome and for your immunities and all of those things. And so when we're talking about access to certain cannabises, I think that it's going to be really important to see what nature does to the regional diction of these plants in different places throughout the world. How does outdoor Colombian weed versus outdoor South Africa weed versus outdoor Oregon weed respond to different things? Because all of those plants growing in their natural habitats and in those places they're supposed to be are going to have drastically different responses and drastically different terpenes and cannabinoid profiles. And so I'm just hopeful that this kind of shit goes around the world and we do more of this.
Well, I agree with you, Nichole, that, you know, it would be fantastic if a state could do this sort of thing. Until we have some major type of rescheduling, descheduling, anything on the federal level, I think that's just going to be a pipe dream.
Deschedule or
How
bust.
long do you think it's going to take,
But I mean,
Gretchen?
Gretchen,
for the whole shebang, it's going to take a while.
well, Gretchen,
Descheduling.
so there's state programs through health department for your medical card. Like the state of California's registry is through our Department of Health. So at a certain point,
I get it.
At a certain
I hear
point,
you.
there is,
I
and there
hear you. I believe you.
There can be access, and just the
you're
same.
so cute and sweet early in the morning. However,
the DEA already approved the ability to get access to medicine out of stores for research. And so this is being approved on a DEA level already. Like this is something that already has been approved for us to finally have access to the real weed that is actually available versus the University of Mississippi's 0.5% whatever THC, right? So that is one thing that already is happening. It's just, it's still in the DEA's hands. And
I'm totally aware of all those facts. I'm just saying, and I think Dr. Talleyrand might back me up, that a major university or someone to back that kind of study in partnership with a state is going to take some help at the federal level that they are not going to get. I don't think this is all going to come from a state Department of Health.
And we've got to be careful. Not all studies are good. It could be a double-edged sword, meaning they could use the evidence. The prohibitionists can use the evidence against us and say, oh, it doesn't work for pain. Y'all are just trying to get high, you know, and then we're back to square one.
I mean, one of our favorite prohibitionist congressmen, Representative Harris out of Maryland, he sponsors research bills. He was one of the sponsors of the one that recently passed, simply because he wants to prove that weed is bad. I'll do the research so I can prove to you that this stuff is all crap.
Congressman Mackey,
Dr.
Mr.
Talleyrand
Mackey
is completely right.
Cannabis saved the world. He said, did we hear about Curaleaf chairman saying that Biden was going to reschedule 3 to 4 to 5? Yo, like, I just have to address that. This guy is trying his best impression of Elon Musk right now, trying to say a bunch of shit out in public to get the needle moving in one way or the other. He is trying to say some politically correct things, but it's really, really hard right now because my brain isn't working right. So,
well, and I would say to Cannabis Saves the World, yes, they are.
He's soliciting himself for big tobacco, for a merger, or to be like picked up. He's making it very, very, very plain that we should be like merging with big tobacco. Like they have our best interests. Either that or big pharma just take us to schedule whatever, so we can somehow make billions and billions more.
The word around DC is definitely Schedule 3 is what they are intensely looking at.
Did you see Malik's comment that he was going to cover this story and that's why he's missing today? Jason Beck was going to cover the story.
It could be.
Curaleaf got him. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for entertaining. Thank you guys for entertaining that South Africa story, and Gretchen for bursting my bubble so early in the morning every day. Let's go ahead and hop to some commercials so maybe we could get some lobby money to change the government's mind.
You want to grow some of the best weed in the world? Then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffle Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie.
See, we can't even get an actual full day off from Jay Beck. But the thoughts and opinions and general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, territory, or its authority. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply, constitute any endorsement by us, the expression of any opinion whatsoever of any person or any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show's probably not for you. Also, Vegas probably did you dirty too. Ring. Okay, so now we got LAX CC ad. Let's do this. I got another one for Jason. Flying into LAX, you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAX CC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard. Open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAX CC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them that we sent you and mention that you like to get high at 9 for 10% off of your full order.
Oh, yeah. She's a spicy redheaded conservative known in D.C. circles for cooking up excellence. But also while she's out here, she's with U.S. Pharmacopoeia, where she has the biggest heavy hitters from all over the globe. Science, the medical side, and on the data side coming together and making shit move forward. I was very, very proud of her event yesterday. It was outstanding. It was excellent, bringing together like some of the brightest minds so we can move this industry forward and have a place where science and technology meet. And then weed lives forever. Gretchen Gailey, the founder of Panoptic Strategies. Come to the stage. What you got for us today?
Morning. Thank you, Rico. And for anyone who is interested in U.S. Pharmacopoeia, I would urge you to go to their website, usp.org/cannabis, and you can see all the resources and monographs. They've done CBD, THC, a whole bunch of cannabinoids. Please check it out. And right now they are actually doing a comment period for cannabis for their herbal medicines compendium for 90 days. That's up December 15th. So please check it out. If you would like to leave your comments, it would be so helpful to their researchers. Dr. Talleyrand, you should definitely be commenting on this thing. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment, and I figured out I got to read things off my phone here in Vegas. Let's see here. Headline, Senator presses federal agency for update on marijuana research barriers and impaired driving report. For those of y'all who joined us, the Lady Show yesterday, we talked a good bit about impaired driving, so I wanted to follow up on that. Senator John Hickenlooper wants an update on the status of a federal report into research barriers that are inhibiting the development of a standardized test for marijuana impairment on the roads. The senator sent a letter on the issue to the head of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which marked the one-year anniversary of President Joe Biden signing a large-scale infrastructure bill that included language mandating the cannabis report. Under the law, the Department of Transportation is required to complete the report by November 2023, so Hickenlooper's letter serves as a check-in on the agency's progress halfway through the timeline. The legislation that included the mandate is also aimed at allowing researchers to study the actual marijuana that consumers are purchasing from state legal dispensaries instead of having to use only government-grown cannabis. But the senator's letter focused on the impaired driving report component of the overall cannabis section. He said, preventing distracted or impaired driving is a key step towards the goal of reducing traffic fatalities and improving roadway safety. Many ambiguities around defining marijuana impaired driving underscore the importance of clarifying this policy uncertainty. The senator, who previously served as Colorado's governor when voters there approved legalization, acknowledged that NHTSA and other federal agencies have published studies on the impact of ending prohibition on impaired driving. But he said that those studies have been limited to surveys of existing academic literature and therefore only produce findings that are unable to be independently verified scientifically by the agency. Due to the statutory classification of marijuana as a controlled substance, federal researchers face barriers not only to evaluating marijuana's effects on a driver's performance, but also in developing tests to accurately detect the amount of THC in a driver's body or determine a THC impairment level. This was all in Hickenlooper's letter to NHTSA's acting administrator, Ann Carlson. Of course, the Schedule I status of cannabis under the Controlled Substance Act affects research of all kinds, imposing onerous processes for scientists to access marijuana from the authorized sources to carry out research. The report required by Section 25026 of the IAJA is a critical first step to identify the barriers that prevent the development of an impairment standard for driving after consuming marijuana. Once these barriers are identified, informed by interagency consensus, Congress would have a suite of policy recommendations to consider and implement that further advance our shared goal to prevent impaired driving and reduce roadway fatalities. One study that was published earlier this year found that states that have enacted legalization are seeing less driving under the influence of marijuana than states that have maintained criminalization. Well, I think that's pretty much probably common sense, but let's do a study on it anyway. I like that Hickenlooper is following up and trying to keep people to the grindstone and making sure that this gets done. Because like we discussed yesterday, as much as we don't like it, legalization is not going to move forward until there is some type of testing for marijuana impairment, for what do they call it? What is DUI for drugs?
Drug driving?
No.
Driving while impaired.
Drugs under impairment or what? I don't remember. Anyway, either way, that stuff's not going to change until there's some type of testing. So if you want legalization, we have to come up with a test. This is Gretchen for High 9 News.
I agree, but driving under the influence of cannabis is different than driving under the influence of alcohol. Which is a lot more dangerous. That's clear. But we do have to dot our I's and cross our T's in order to get this moving forward. The difficulty will be that unlike alcohol, THC is fat soluble, so it stays in your system longer and won't be an accurate measure of impaired driving. So we're going to have to come up with a different way to measure impairment under the influence. And there are some interesting things out there, like there's a portable EEG cap where you put a cap on your head, which shows your level of impairment through brain waves. So there are possibilities out there. But I don't know if all the police officers are going to have to carry around this cap and put it on you in the field. It's going to get difficult.
And while I agree with you 100%, Dr. Talleyrand, that drug driving versus drunk driving are two very different things, but not in the minds of legislators. So we have to placate the uninformed, and that's pretty much how all of Washington generally works, placating the uninformed.
So, Gretchen, would you say that it would behoove the industry to invest in the research necessary to provide that kind of data, that kind of real science, so that we don't do the thing like we were talking about earlier, like give the research to people that want to prove their version of the point, right? So it's like if we give it to the government that are specifically looking to make it out to be like it's this awful thing, if we wait for them to choose, do worse than if we try to get that research being done now.
I think if you wait for the government to do the research, you're going to be waiting a long time. So yes, I definitely think that the industry should take it upon themselves. But I also, because of, whatever stigma is attached to this industry, I would say that whoever develops this needs to do it also in partnership with a reputable university or someone else. Johns Hopkins has done a ton of research in cannabis that people aren't looking at. And you just need a big heavy hitter with you, or someone's going to jump up and down and say that what we're putting out there is bullshit. So we need to make alliances.
What do you suggest? Who's the
I think
heavy
I
hitter
just
you're
did.
talking about?
I like Johns Hopkins. But I don't know if they're doing that sort of thing. I know there was a group a few years ago around the University of Maryland that was working on an impairment test. And aren't there some guys out in California? I know you guys have a number of wonderful
It's gonna be
universities in
obsolete.
California.
But
They
here's the
keep
thing: it's
trying.
going to be obsolete by the time it's ready to go into production. We're going to be going full autonomous vehicles for the most part, like out here. They're going to get rid of letting you drive your own car. You're going to get rid of gas in the vehicles, and you're just going to hop in a pod, and it's not going to matter. So there's going to be a waste of government money, and you better follow that shit to see exactly where it goes.
When has the government ever worried about wasting money? You're crazy. Bless your cute little hearts in California that think you're going to be in pods in a year or two. Y'all are nutballs. I don't know how that state functions on a
I live in
regular
the hood, and
basis.
gas is still $6 a gallon. It's after the drop, so like my shit stays parked. Okay, so let's keep it moving. Coming up next, he's a multi-talented, multifaceted attorney, founder of a bi-coastal, unique boutique cannabis law firm with offices in California and New York, the NCIA director, a legal publisher, author, ganjier, purple belt in high-style Brazilian jiu-jitsu, not the low style and not mid-style, high style, reserving his right to league break your wrist and walk away if you fuck up the rotation. Coming to the stage next, y'all know who it is, Omar Figueroa.
Happy Friday, everyone. TV national news in Canada, go real. The heads have lost more than 130 investing in cannabis companies. That's approximately 1,000 million. Canadians.
Omar, we're having a bit of a hard time hearing you. You're cutting in and out.
Okay.
You look good though.
You look great.
Good, brother.
Let me see if I can.
We gotta be strong as men. We gotta be strong.
Can you hear me? Is that?
And uplift each other.
Is it? Oh shit. maybe to the new. What about now? Does this work? Testing. Hello.
Yeah, that's a network. Are you on Chrome?
No, I'm on
Are you on Chrome or are you on Safari?
Oh, get on
that's
Chrome
why-
and come
that's
back.
what it is.
We'll introduce
Go to Chrome.
Dr. Talleyrand and we'll come back. Get on Google
Okay.
Chrome. All right.
They call me IT Rico today. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like over here, help desk and customer success strategy. So you want me
I love
to should I introduce just the rest?
Yeah.
The actor.
Yeah.
Okay. Up next, it's the real industry OG doctor with a proven track record with years of service, serving up daily doses of compassion and love to the people. He's the founder of Medican and the co-founder of CESC, a nonprofit cannabis research organization. He's seriously been doing some great work out there. So make sure you guys give a warm round of applause. Oh, wrong button. For Dr. Jean Talleyrand.
Thanks, Rico. Happy Friday, everyone. So I wanted to give all of you an update from Ground Zero. My headline today is For or Against in 2024, the controversial cannabis reform initiative is on the ballot for Humboldt County voters. And I do have the author of this article here on Clubhouse. So let me just sort of introduce you to what the article is about. It's official. The good people of Humboldt County, California, who supported cannabis users throughout Prohibition are now facing an existential fight. In March 2024, Humboldt County residents will have the option to vote for or against the Humboldt County Cannabis Reform Initiative. Over 7,000 Humboldt County residents signed a petition to have the initiative put on the ballot. The initiative aims to, quote, protect residents, landowners, and our beautiful natural environment from harm caused by large-scale industrial cannabis cultivation. So, Nichole, are you on Clubhouse? Uh-oh. All right, well,
Did we let Nichole
Got your
up from the audience?
Maybe that's the.
Rico,
Yeah. Did I? All right, hold on one second.
we
I
gotta
can
let
do that.
Nichole
Oh,
up from the
no.
audience. She's probably still down there.
Is Jaja in there too?
Nicole
Sure.
Norris. We were trying to bring her
Nicole
up.
Norris. Okay, I'm looking right now. Hold on, Nicole. I'm coming for you. Coming for you. All right.
So
Tell us
the-
more
Is it
about
another
this.
Nicole?
yeah. So,
She has
so you guys,
a H in her name too. How about that? How about
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Brought her on stage.
So, are you there, Nicole? So jump in when you get on, Nicole. I just wanted to keep moving so we can get Omar's story in.
Absolutely.
Just so you guys know the proponents. Who are the proponents of this initiative? Neeland is a small town around 12 miles east of Humboldt Bay. It's situated between Eureka and Arcata. The last census documented a couple of hundred residents, and they're mostly people who've chosen to retire in that beautiful part of the world. So why the initiative? Mark Thurmond, Neeland resident and retired professor, proposes that this initiative will protect all the people in rural Humboldt County who've really been harmed in a number of ways by cannabis cultivation. So when cannabis legalized, Humboldt County lit up. Domed greenhouses growing cannabis dotted the landscape. What was previously hidden behind fences, underground, or in grow rooms during Prohibition was now clearly displayed for everyone to see, and the neighbors did not like it. So Thurmond, Betsy Watson, and some who did not want to divulge their names for fear of intimidation hired a San Francisco lawyer to write this initiative. You there, Nicole?
We
Am
have
I on?
Nicole up. Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me
All right.
now. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Is this a good time to jump in, Dr. Talleyrand?
Jump
Forgive the
on in.
technical.
Tell us about who the proponents are.
Oh, so the proponents, they've been called NIMBYs with their depends in a bunch, I think is what folks have been calling them. A little bit about them. They have this idea that a large farm is 10,000 square feet. And I'm not exactly sure where they're getting this idea from. And other agricultural industries, of course, 10,000 square micro farm. But these folks are adamant about ending all farms over 10,000 square feet. They were up in arms about 40,000 square foot farm in their community, which was reduced to 10,000 square feet. And they're just not familiar with the culture. One of the fellows, the Mark Thurmond guy you mentioned, he's a retired professor from UC Davis, and he, moved here to get away from it all, and wasn't thrilled with the cannabis culture, which makes you go, why did he move to Humboldt then? He's after all of our farmers, and basically this initiative threatens all of Humboldt County cannabis for the entire future. Our director of planning and building explained that if this initiative passes, there will be no more permits at all in the county. And because of the watershed caps, in addition, all of our roads need to be upgraded to Category 4, which is ludicrous for the rural regions. You only want to do Category 4 when you're going from rural to urban areas. And so when you look at our little homes in the middle of the forest and all these little cannabis farms scattered about, you really don't need the Category 4 roads. But unfortunately, this initiative requires that in order to have a permit. So
they're expecting a high traffic, so they want to build large roads in Humboldt County in order or require the build of large roads in Humboldt County?
Right. They're making everyone upgrade their roads to Category 4, which is it's going to cost billions of dollars. I mean, it's just completely unrealistic to require that for a cannabis permit. I spoke in the article with an engineer about how just unnecessary it would be as well.
Yeah, the article describes it beautifully. And the opposition saying this is a death blow to cultivation in Humboldt County, right? And it doesn't support the small farmers as it says it is.
Nichole, thank you so much for joining us on this. I did want to ask Omar. I mean, Omar, being a lawyer, where do you see this like ending up, and are you concerned for, you know, you've got clients in Northern California? Are you concerned for this passing, or how do you feel?
I don't think it's going to pass. I think it's like, you know, a NIMBY measure that does not enjoy wide support throughout Humboldt County, especially as educational efforts undertaken by Nichole Norris. And thank you for joining us today, Nichole.
Bless your heart, Omar.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I think if it does gain traction and comes close, I think we're going to see copycat measures in other parts of the state, and they don't really do much good because the people who write these are so disconnected from the economic reality. Like 10,000 square feet is not a large farm, you know, by any means, especially when you consider what's happening in the regulated cultivation spaces in San Luis Obispo or Santa Barbara counties, where, you know, there's just massive grow operations that are totally legal according to the locals, and it's just a very unworkable system. You know, I think Humboldt for a long time has been looking for an economic savior, and cannabis has been its economic savior after the decline of the extractive logging and fishing industry. And it just needs to accept that cannabis can really save Humboldt County. It could be the Napa of cannabis. You know, Humboldt cannabis probably has the highest brand, you know, recognition in the world as high quality cannabis. It should embrace it, you know, instead of trying to make it more difficult.
I really think
case
that's
where the government is biting the hand that fed it.
I really think that that's the weed that we need to be doing a lot of our research on. Like when I was talking about like the regional and the things that do well in certain areas, that area is like special on so many levels. The Emerald Triangle has something very amazing with the salinity and the pH and the balance and everything that's going on up there. I really think that if there is like a place in this country that is growing the most special version of this plant, it is Humboldt County. And I really hope that we're able to keep that going and don't stop these farmers from being able to achieve the American dream that they deserve.
And for decades, you know, the growers of Mendocino and Humboldt County were some of the last free people in the United States who rebelled against, you know, being part of this like grind system that, you know, took young people and turned them into old people and stole their dreams and took their youth and their vigor. And they were escaping the rat race. And now what's happened? The rat race has followed the growers into the, you know, cannabis space. And, you know, even if you win the rat race, as one of my colleagues at Stanford Law School used to say, you're still a rat. You know, you're playing a dead game.
True. Sometimes there's mice in there, though.
That's a great segue for us to bring it back to you, Omar. Thank you. Your sound is so much better. We're excited to hear what you have to say today, and reintroduction to the badass that is Omar Figueroa of Figueroa Law Firm. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, thank you, Nichole. Happy Friday, everyone. My story is from CTV National News in Canada by Adrian Gabriel. The headline is Canadians have lost more than $131 billion investing in cannabis companies. And that's Canadian. So at today's rates, that's approximately $100 billion US. Canadians who invested in cannabis companies have lost more than $131 billion, according to data collected by law firm Miller Thomson, which calculated the total losses of 183 publicly traded and licensed cannabis producers. It's a staggering number that, if divided equally between an estimated 3 million active investors, would equate to each losing about $43,000 Canadian. Larry Ellis, a lawyer with the firm, points out that he doesn't know of many Canadian investors who can afford to lose $40,000 individually. At today's conversion rates, 43,000 Canadian dollars equals a bit over 32,000 US dollars. From high times to large swaths of an industry now going up in smoke, The money lost is just one example of the current state of the Canadian cannabis industry. Many are now pointing the finger at the federal government's rollout of legalization, while noting that the black market is thriving. Levin Castanyan thought he'd found the perfect location for his retail cannabis shop on a busy pedestrian street in downtown Toronto. He opened his doors in September of 2021. 12 months later, he was forced to close. Castanyan says he has another 3 years on his lease. With a rent of $6,000 per month, he admits that bankruptcy may be the only way to get out of here. He spent nearly $300,000 on his retail store, with his family lending him the bulk of the money. Licensing cost me $10,000 for this location. Then I had all my renovations. That was about $150,000. Then I had rent and operating costs. That's $60,000. Then I had an inventory of $50,000. So we're already at $280,000, and that's not including payroll for employees and overhead like that, Castanyan told CTV National News. When he picked this location, there was a black market cannabis shop 2 doors from his own, but he figured it would be closed quickly, or that the government would adjust their legislation to allow him to compete with an unregulated store that continues to offer much more potent edible products. But that never happened. From my perspective, I did everything. I applied for all the licenses. I did everything. Why should I go bankrupt? Castanyan asked. The store next door sees a steady stream of customers and is able to sell cannabis products free of government regulations and taxes. They've done nothing to shut them down. Right now, there is no point in opening a store. I mean, there's too much competition. The margins are very low, Castanyan added. Currently in Toronto, there are more weed stores than Tim Hortons, which is the Canadian equivalent of Starbucks. Attorney Larry Ellis has helped dozens of cannabis companies reorganize their businesses as they fight to stay afloat. It's an industry that has been created by the Canadian government and frankly set up to fail, Ellis said. CTV National News gained access to a 10,000 square foot unregulated grow-up in southern Ontario. We were taken for a tour inside, where roughly 1,600 plants are in various stages of growth. Every few months, a crop is harvested and a new one is planted. Paul Maris called the space a cooperative medical marijuana facility and claims that the flower that's coming out of this medical environment is no different than what's coming out of a licensed facility. The only governance that's needed to make it to any consumer shelf in the retail market is a certificate of analysis. Maris says that thousands of plants are allowed to be grown at the sprawling operation using the medical marijuana licenses issued to just 4 individuals by the federal government. He says that the cannabis in the facility is shared with medicinal users who pay only a quarter of the price to have their plants grown here instead of buying product from a licensed producer or retailer. However, there are concerns being shared that the eye-opening amount of cannabis grown using medical licenses at some facilities is finding its way to the unregulated market. When you see the volumes that these various medical growers are producing, it's a decent instinct to think it's going somewhere else, Ellis said. Maris disagrees. I don't know of this black market that you're speaking of. I know of medical patients that are supported from cooperatives like this, he said. Maris admits that he's been growing marijuana for more than 2 decades, long before legalization, and as a result has a criminal record. I had to go away and serve time for conspiracy to traffic cannabis, and it has inhibited me from owning any more than 10% of a cannabis business, he said. Maris believes it's individuals such as himself who have the knowledge to help make Canada's marijuana market viable for the future, and he's calling on the federal and provincial governments to loosen their restrictions on who gets to participate in the country's so-called legal system. Currently, a long overdue review of Canada's Cannabis Act is underway. The federal government claims part of their focus is to cultivate a diverse and competitive legal industry made up of small and large players to displace the illicit market. Though for Castanyan and other small retail business owners, any legislative changes to the Cannabis Act are simply too late. Hundreds of independent retail shops are expected to close across the country this year. As he packs his final boxes and locks his doors for good, Castanyan doesn't mince words. I got screwed by the government 100%. The number of legal stores keeps increasing. The number of legal stores keeps decreasing. So what was the point of all this if it's not working? My take, ouch. As Canadians would diplomatically say, The situation is a complete Charlie Foxtrot. Canada definitely needs to allow individuals with cannabis convictions to participate in the regulated market without restriction, which is the general rule in states like California and New York. I'm curious to hear what other correspondents have to say. The headline is Canadians have lost more than $131 billion investing in cannabis companies. This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, and Ganjier instructor, reporting for High at 9, high noon Eastern.
I'm actually curious because when I listened to this, what you referenced about this gentleman was that he had a little less than a year's worth of capital ready to run his business. And anybody who starts a business with only 1 year runway especially in an emerging market, it set themselves up for failure. So this specific story, I would say, was just as much his fault as it was the government's because of poor planning, in the fact that they weren't ready for the full 3 years, which is what a normal business you would say, and you would try to make sure that you had. Everyone thought they were going to cash out on like year one and become fucking millionaires. So like that sounded like a bad play on him as an investor. But at the same time, the competitive nature and how quickly everything's been going and the lack of the regulation for the illicit market is a problem over and over and through and through. And, Gretchen had said earlier today that the only way this is going to make sense is if we're able to get rid of that market so that the regulated market can thrive. But at the same time, the ability to get quality access to quality products in Canada. I can't say that I wouldn't go to the trap as well, because the weed that's available there is just not of medicinal quality in a lot of the situations. And so I feel like it's a double-edged sword, but it does sound like this investor or this person didn't have enough money, in my opinion.
I will agree that with Nichole that this guy sounds a little naive in what he was getting into. But from talking to friends of mine up in Canada who do have the runway, they're just getting crushed. They didn't say officially taxes, but when they added it all up to me or whatever, it was around like 77% these guys are paying. And they're like, I just can't make money or run a business that way. And I'm no expert on the Canadian government and that system and how it all works. And I know they're all controlling that jack. So I can't really complain too much because I don't know what the hell I'd be talking about. But I do know that the taxes are too damn high and they aren't getting the help from the government that they need to shut down the illicit market.
No. Well, thank you guys. We are at the top of the hour. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in every morning.
You did the outro. You did the intro. Come on. And I left you guys hanging yesterday, and I apologize. We did have the weed version of The View, and it just shows how much trust that we have in the feminist vision of Nichole West. But thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another version in another episode of High at 9 News. Anybody seen Jason back out there, please tell him his family misses him. We love him. And the plane leaves in 3 hours.
Cautiously.
Right. Catch us weekdays 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East. Shout out to our live audience members and the online supporters. Just feedback on the daily headlines of chaos, also known as developing cannabis industry. To the sponsors, True Classic, LAXCC, our vetted industry correspondent team tuning in from all over the global community, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and adding your respected opinions to the conversation as well. Thank you 3S4 Media, our production team, for making us look and sound fantastic, even though we're on this crappy internet, wireless. As much as you pay for these rooms, you'd think they'd have strong internet connection, but it's trash. And 3S4 Media just like holding shit down and helping us out as much as they can. But it is what it is. Thank you, Jaja Simone, out there holding things down in Clubhouse. Thank you so very much, all the haters out there. We see you. We love you. Keep hating. It just makes us stronger. I hope you die. And thank you so very much, haters. I already read that part. And lastly, Cannabis Sativa, the mother of all mama wanna plants. We thank you for blessing us with purpose to read the news stories every weekday morning. We will always come back to you no matter how long we're gone. We love you. It's Friday, November, what is today? The 18th. 18th. The show's over. Go out there, have your blessings, and make sure you guys check in on Monday morning and see us again. I'm sorry I'm so slow today, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do out here. It's Vegas 2022, MJ BizCon. National Weed Week, whatever you want to call it. Big ups to the scientists, the educators, the cultivators, the operators, everybody who came out and did your thing, and everybody who came out here just to do some bullshit and distract us, man. Like, it's okay. Your day of reckoning is coming soon. See you guys on Monday. We love you all. Nichole, any final words for the people at home?
There was for sure at least like 100 undercover cops around this week. So I hope that
Yes. Trust nobody.
I hope you met at
Ops
least
around.
one of them and said something dumb. I'm just kidding. Have a good weekend,
Jason,
y'all.
Bye.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nichole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.